This is infrared imagery identified and cataloged by ARRO showing multiple small, spherical areas of contrast moving near the surface and briefly in the water. The file bears an uploader-defined title that places the event in late March of 2022 and refers to activity near a submarine call sign. The clip runs for just under 5 minutes, and the Department of War made it available through the Pursue program on May 22, 2026. ARRO located this item among a collection of materials uploaded to a classified network in May 2024 while responding to a records request from members of the United States House of Representatives earlier in March 2026. That request sought access to a set of potentially UAP-related records allegedly held by the Department of War and the broader intelligence community. ARRO notes that many of those materials lack a substantiated chain of custody, a fact that affects how investigators treat imagery and associated reporting. ARRO assesses that this clip is likely derived from an infrared sensor aboard a United States military platform. The visual language is consistent with thermal contrast on a single infrared channel, so the objects appear as brighter or darker spots against a colder background of sea and sky. The footage appears to have been captured with a tracking sensor capable of panning and zooming, and at times the operator or automatic tracker keeps one or another area of contrast centered in the frame while the platform or the sensor moves. Early in the clip, a small area of contrast appears from below left and moves across the lower part of the frame as the sensor pans to follow it. Moments later, a second similar area of contrast enters from the opposite side, and the sensor adjusts to keep both in view. At times, one object briefly leaves the frame while the other remains, and then the second object reappears from the left as tracking continues. For several intervals, the sensor holds one target while the other moves out of view, and later the camera zooms out enough that the tracked object is lost for a period of time. In the middle portion of the recording, another area of contrast enters from the lower right, crosses toward the left, and then re-enters from the right as the sensor continues its sweep. Near the end of the clip, yet another area of contrast moves in from the right and travels across the field of view while the sensor follows. Across these moments, the features are compact and roughly circular in thermal signature, which is why the uploader described them as spherical. The objects appear to transit between the surface and the water column, briefly disappearing from view in ways consistent with immersion or with sensor geometry and sea clutter in infrared imagery. The available metadata cautions that the descriptive sequence is not an analytical determination of identity or intent. Investigators who reviewed the item emphasized two constraints. First, the imagery alone offers limited information about size, altitude, or distance because there is no independent range data in the clip. Second, the provenance of the file is uncertain in places. The chain of custody for the wider collection is not fully substantiated, and that limits the degree to which technical analysts can draw firm conclusions about origin or mechanism. Where analysts do comment, they frame this as a thermal tracking record that merits further technical review rather than as a closed finding. What makes this footage notable is its duration and repeated tracking of multiple compact thermal contrasts that appear to enter and exit the water, recorded by a platform sensor and held on a classified network before being identified in the Pursue review. The clip is one piece among many in a broader set of records now being examined by oversight bodies in ARRO, and it illustrates both the operational challenges of interpreting infrared tracking data and the evidentiary complications that accompany incomplete custody histories. Explore the case file, related footage, citing reports, and our weekly UAP News podcast at UAPDrop.com.